Yo ho everybody and welcome to another edition of Yinzer on Hockey. Before we begin, make sure you go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure you click that little bell to stay up to date on all 31 NHL teams. So today I want to take a look at the Atlantic Division, kind of reset where everybody finished and see what they need to do moving forward as we go into 2018-19. The 2017-18 season finished up with Tampa Bay winning the division and the Eastern Conference with 113 points. Boston Bruins finished second with 112. Toronto Maple Leafs, franchise best, 105 points. Just missing the playoffs was the Florida Panthers with 96 points. Detroit Red Wings finished with 73. Montreal Canadiens with 71. Ottawa Senators at 67. And Buffalo Sabres with 62 points. So let's go ahead and start from the top with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Notable free agents for them. Unrestricted free agent is Chris Kunitz, who was on a one-year deal this year. He's a veteran guy, late in his career, 38 years old. Whether or not they bring him back, that's to be determined. But he's definitely a guy that, if he does continue to play, it's going to be with a contending team. He's at that stage of his career where he just wants to win. Adam Ernie was very good for Tampa Bay at spots down the stretch, playing on each wing. He is a restricted free agent, as well as JT Miller, also a restricted free agent. I do look for JT Miller to be tendered a contract offer. And Cedric Paquette. He's another guy. He's played quite a few years with Tampa now, restricted free agent. They'll probably want to consider tendering him an offer. On the defensive side of things, they have Slater Cuckoo. This one's a question mark for me. I don't know whether they re-sign him or tender him an offer. And Andre Schuster is a unrestricted free agent. He may explore options outside, and I don't know whether Tampa Bay is going to want to bring him back. They're going to have to maneuver a lot of money this year to be able to sign some of their big-name free agents coming up in the next offseason, with Yanni Gourde, Corey Conacher, as well as Nikita Kucherov on their defense next offseason as well, with McDonough, Stroman, Braden Colburn, and Dan Girardi all expected to hit unrestricted free agency. So they got a lot of work to do this offseason to set them up for next offseason, as well as their big issue now is, as of today, they traded Peter Budaj back to the Los Angeles Kings in exchange for Andy Andrioff. He's a left-wing center iceman, so they will be looking to add a veteran goaltender to back up Andrei Vasilevsky. Boston Bruins' current contract situation, couple of big-name unrestricted free agents here. You have Riley Nash, unrestricted free agent, Rick Nash, as well as an unrestricted free agent, and Tommy Wingels. Tommy Wingels is a guy, he's got some versatility, plays on either wing, but kind of replaceable. I think Riley Nash, who I think primarily played like third-line center or wing for them this year, he's a guy that they'll probably want to investigate being able to re-sign. On the defensive side of things, not much to worry about here this year. Still got one more year of Zdeno Chara at $5 million. I don't know whether or not he'll decide to retire this offseason or whether or not he'll come back and play out the remainder of his contract. And Adam McQuaid also is an unrestricted free agent next offseason. So a lot of wiggle room here for them to be able to investigate re-signing guys and bring in players back as needed. They'll need to replace some of their scoring on the front end with both Rick Nash and Riley Nash possibly leaving via free agency. In net, they have Tuukka Rask still under contract for 3 more years, and then Anton Khudobin is an unrestricted free agent, so they might be another team that is in the market for a veteran backup goaltender to spell Tuukka Rask. Toronto Maple Leafs. They have quite an interesting situation with a lot of their contracts. They have Thomas Plekanec, Tyler Bozak, Leo Komarov, Dominic Moore, and James Van Riemsdyk, all unrestricted free agents. So they do have a lot of cap space, as I mentioned in a video previously, that they're one of the teams that can go pretty heavy in the into free agency because they have a lot of cap space and they're a pre-built competitive team ready to go. Even with losing a couple of these guys, should be pretty easy to replace with the amount of cap space they have. I think the one that they're going to want to try to re-sign the most is James Van Riemsdyk, because he's a sniper on the wing that just knows how to find the back of the net. It's hard to replace his goal production, and he's a guy that they're going to want to look to re-sign. On the defensive side of things, they have Roman Polak and Connor Carrick, both free agents this year. I think they will want to bring Polak back. He is a great veteran presence for them. He plays really well in the back end. Great defenseman for them, and would like to see them re-sign him. In net, Frederik Andersen still has 3 more years, and Curtis McElhinney with another year at $850,000. Great backup goaltender for them. Was able to step in and spell Anderson for times this season, and he was a really dependable, reliable backup. So, the Florida Panthers' current contract situation, not really much on the front end as far as free agents go. They pretty much have their core signed up, and should be in place for the next few years. On the back end, Petrovic and Mackenzie Weegar are both restricted free agents. Both viable guys in their own right. Probably bring them back on 2-way contracts each, and let them compete for roster spots. So nothing really major to work on here for Florida. Maybe bring in some more forward scoring depth, as well as bring in maybe a reliable top 4 defenseman for them. I hear that they have been in talks with Carolina Hurricanes over Jeff Skinner, so that's a possibility for them to target to add some depth to their front end. And like I said, another top 4 defenseman for them would be a great addition. In goal, they have the always reliable Roberto Luongo and James Reimer, so both of those guys, very fantastic goaltenders. Nothing needs to change in net for them. Montreal Canadiens. So they have Alice Hemsky is an unrestricted free agent, 34 years old. Don't look for him to come back. Philip Danault is probably their big restricted free agent that they're going to want to look to tender an offer and bring him back. But they really need a lot of help down the middle. There's talks of them possibly trying to move out Max Pacioretty. That's something that they, if they're able to do, that'll free up a lot of extra cap space for them and be able to add some flexibility with what they do in the offseason. Holding the number 3 overall pick in this year's draft. So there's a lot of great talent to be had with the number 3 pick. I made a video in regards to Brady Tkachuk versus Philip Zadina as to who I think should be the number 3 pick. You can check that out in the cards above. And on defense, quite a bit of age here on their defense. Leading the way is Shea Weber, about $8 million a year for him, 7.8, and they're stuck with this for eternity almost. So if there was a way they could move that, I'm sure they would look for it. But as far as free agency goes, everyone they have on their current roster is locked up for at least the next couple of years. In net, this is the most reliable goaltending situation you could possibly have. Carey Price is your starter. If he's healthy, he's the best goaltender in the game. I don't think many people will argue as to whether or not he is that valuable to them. And he is a guy that, when healthy, he's the best in the game, and you look to shore him up. You want to spell him as much as you can with a reliable backup. They seem to have found that last year with Antti Niemi. Later on in the year, he came in, played a large stretch while Carey Price was hurt, and he played really well for them. Kind of wore off the early season woes he had with the Pittsburgh Penguins and Florida Panthers last year, and played very well for Montreal down the stretch. So, good situation in goal. You would like to to see Montreal sure up their center ice position and get some depth down the middle and add a high caliber scoring winger, maybe like a Philip Sedina, to their roster and see what they can do next year, because this team is only a year removed from being a playoff contender and making it to the second round in the Eastern Conference. The Ottawa Senators. There's more drama to be had. That's in a video to follow with the Ottawa Senators. I'm not going to talk about that here. Currently under contract, they have, for restricted free agents, they have Mark Stone. He has been arguing his case to get out of Ottawa, so I don't know whether or not they're going to tender him and bring him back. And then on defense, you got Wideman as an unrestricted free agent, 28 years old. I'm sure they would like to bring him back. Cody Cece's a restricted free agent. He's played very well for them at times. The big issue going forward in the next couple of off seasons is you have Erik Karlsson set to become an unrestricted free agent in the 2019 offseason, as well as Matt Duchene becoming an unrestricted free agent, and many of their other forwards, Pyatt, Ryan Dzingel, Burrows, all these guys coming into free agency, and those guys are going to be looking for varying degrees of raises or new contracts in the coming years. So a lot of work for Ottawa to do to get back to where they were last season, not this past season, but the last season when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and were only one goal away from making the Stanley Cup. What they do moving forward, how they address the Erik Karlsson contract situation, are they talking to him? Are they able to come to terms? What's it going to take to get these guys extended? And that's something that they're going to have to address, as well as the situation with their fans, their arena, many things outside of hockey that also need to be addressed for the Ottawa Senators. Again, I have a whole Ottawa Senators segment coming up in a very close future for me, so we'll talk about that in the near future. The Detroit Red Wings, enunciation there. They are coming off a season of disappointment, a couple of seasons of disappointment in regards to their level of success that they've attained over the past quarter of a century. So they're used to being, top tier team. So for them to fall back a couple of notches, a little bit disheartening for them. As far as forwards go, David Booth is the only unrestricted free agent. Dylan Larkin's a restricted free agent. David Booth is an unrestricted free agent. Dylan Larkin is a restricted free agent. That's a guy they're going to want to get under contract, get him tendered in, as well as Andreas Antonisio. I am terrible with that name. I like this guy, but I'm terrible with his name. He's also a restricted free agent. I love his game. He brings so much energy to the front end. Great center iceman. He's a guy capable of being a top six center in the NHL, given the opportunity, given the time on ice, and he is a guy that you want to lock up. So they're probably going to be looking to tender him. I've heard rumors of possibly them getting him locked in and then possibly exploring trade options for him. I mean, if that's the option they take, there's definitely value in trading him if you're looking more short-term. If you're looking long-term, I think you want to lock up Antonisio for the long term. On the defense, Mike Green is an unrestricted free agent. I talked about him yesterday in my top 5 free agent defensemen. I really like the way he plays. I don't know whether he is an elite or top tier defenseman anymore, but he's definitely in that second level of defenseman that's very, very good. And I think he's going to get a lot of offers outside of Detroit, and he's going to be, one of those top contended defensemen on the open market. But they will need to replace his production, especially on the top power play, as well as his strong penalty killing minutes. In the goaltender position, Jimmy Howard, one more year left at $5.2 million. So they'll be looking to bring in a veteran backup as well to help replace Jimmy Howard. I spoke yesterday at length at my goaltender available free agent goaltenders. There is a lot of quality veteran goaltenders who can look to be number 2 goaltenders or steady starting goaltenders that can bridge you to your next goaltender of the future. So there's a lot of goaltenders out there to be had, and the Atlantic Division is a right place for these goaltenders to look to get quality playing time. Finally, we reached the Buffalo Sabres. There is a lot of work to be done here in Buffalo, obviously. Restricted free agents, restricted free agents is Scott Wilson and Sam Reinhart. Reinhart definitely going to be tendered. Definitely going to be looking to lock him up for some term here with them. He plays so well with Jack Eichel. He's a top power play guy, so you get great value out of him. On the defensive side of things, you have Justin Falk, not the Carolina Justin Falk, the other Justin Falk. He is the unrestricted free agent for Buffalo on the defense, as well as Josh Georges. I would love to see Josh Georges re-sign, give Buffalo a little bit more to help them bridge and get these younger defensemen up to speed, especially Rasmus Dahlin coming in as the number 1 draft pick. He's going to be ready to play in the NHL right away. You just need to get him on, a top pairing, get him up to speed, get some veterans behind him that can teach him the NHL game, and I think Josh Georges is a great guy to do that. Coming up, goaltenders, Robin Lehner, restricted free agent, 26 years old. He's a guy that he's so hit or miss. He's had spots of brilliance, but again, it's in Buffalo, so it's really hard to gauge how good of a goaltender he really is without having his stats right in front of me. I'm not sure how to gauge him. I really like the way he plays. He gives them chances. And then Chad Johnson, unrestricted free agent, 32. I would love to see Chad Johnson come back. And if they do, bring in another goaltender or bring up a prospect from the AHL, let Chad Johnson help bridge that gap between, a prospect or a future goaltender. I like Chad Johnson in that role. So those are that's a look at what's happening in the Atlantic Division as far as contract situations and maybe team needs that could be addressed. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What is the biggest needs for the Atlantic Division? I noted goaltender for a lot of these teams. Goaltender is going to be a big selling point in the Atlantic Division. What do the bottom teams need to do to get up in that playoff race? What do the top teams need to do to get in that Stanley Cup race? Let's have a discussion down below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Follow me on all the social media listed in the description below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.